my name is Beck and welcome to another video where I am reacting to somebody else's favourites of 2021. In this case, it's books with Emily Fox. I've already reacted to Daniel Green's video, so I'll link that down below if you're interested, but I'm effectively going to see what Emily's favourite books were to see if we have any kind of crossover in our reading taste, and whatever she hasn't read, I might consider trying in the future. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be one of the most anticipated book videos of the year, the best books that I have read in 2021. So this is part of my end of the year book series. I look forward to this video every year. These are the best books that I have read. Would love to hear your thoughts on the books I will be mentioning, but also the ones that you have read that you have loved, because we all need more books added to our TBRs, right? They're in no particular order, however. Special mention to this one, Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second book in the Stormlight Archives series, and I absolutely adore this one.
This is one of my favourite series ever, so this is where our tastes definitely align. I know that Sanderson is also one of her favourite authors.
Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I adore this book. I read it earlier this year and I have been thinking about it ever since. The author, I have a couple of her books, but this is the first book that I have read by her. For some reason, I've been really intimidated by her work. She talks about really difficult topic, whether it's like feminism or in this case, slavery, and she uses like sci-fi elements or a little bit historical fiction to discuss them. In this case, you're following a black woman, 26-year-old black woman living in California in 1976.
Historical isn't usually my thing, but maybe because sci-fi is mixed in, I will like it. I've never read Octavia E. Butler, and honestly, kind of like Emily said, I've been very intimidated by her work, but I really need to try her. I just need to try her out, and maybe I should start with Kindred.
If you had told me in the beginning of the year that this book would make it in this video, I would not have believed you. This is the first book in the Wheel of Time series, so The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I don't know, I feel like fantasy has been very hit and miss for me, and I haven't been reading as much. But I'm looking at the books that I'm going to be talking about in this video, and a lot of them are fantasy, so I guess it's still working for me, even though I'm hesitating to read a lot. But this was so much better than I expected. The characters were more likable than I thought they were going to be.
I do agree. I really liked the first book and gave it 4 stars, and the characters were quite likable and I was interested in all of them, but in book 2 it very much derailed for me and I'm not interested anymore. So it started strong, but it just isn't my thing anymore. So thankfully I've read this one and I don't have to add a 700 or 800 book to my maybe I'll read it later TBR.
I also obviously needed to talk about the Sword of Kaigen. I, for some reason, had this book for like 2-3 years on my Kindle and I had yet to pick it up. I kept forgetting to read it. It's a standalone, adult standalone fantasy, and it was self-published, and it is so freaking good. It took me a while to get fully immersed into their universe.
I actually have this on my TBR as an audiobook, so it's cool that she brings it up now. I also have kept it on the down low for a while and I've just not bothered picking it up, but given that it's a fantasy standalone, it sounds very doable and I'm keen to try it. So this is very high on my I really want to read it list, so I'm really happy that it turned up in this video.
Speaking of fantasy series, we have the first trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, the first book being The Blade itself, which I read the first book, absolutely adored it.
I also adore this series, so we're doing quite well so far. I love Joe Abercrombie. I love his dark, gritty, atmospheric fantasy. His latest series hasn't really scratched the itch that I wanted it to, with the conclusion for Wisdom of Crowds, which I discussed in, surprisingly, Daniel Green's reaction video. So it's just a series that is doing the rounds clearly, and for a reason, it's really good, but if you can start with The Blade itself, I found A Little Hatred, Trouble with Peace, and Wisdom for Crowds really good, but not as good as his initial series. So hopefully he writes more stuff that I can absolutely love.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I am like 15 years late with this one. I had no intention of reading this. Like none. I was doing one of my favorite challenges, which is 1 week, 1 shelf. Basically, I put the number of all of my shelves in a jar, pick one, and I have to read solely books from that shelf that week. And I picked this really random shelf that has like mystery thriller horrors that just don't have like nice covers, like that shape, mass market paperbacks, not my thing. So I can't make them real pretty. So I shove a bunch of things there that I kind of forgot I had, including this one. And I decided to read the first chapter of a couple to figure out which one I liked the writing most, and this was the winner, and I read it so quickly. My edition has like 800 something pages, and I flew through this in a couple of days. Absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. I mean, it's definitely very, very popular. I'm super late.
I'm also super late to this, but I don't usually read horror or crime, and I know Emily reads more of that, like way more of that than I do. I barely dip into that genre or category at all. So the fact that this is on here and it's quite long, I'm more intimidated by this than I am if she held up like an 800-page fantasy. So I'm feeling a lot of pain right now.
Also needed to mention Emergency Scan by N.K. Jemisin. This was my first 5 stars of the year. Actually, I had DNF'd, like put down a book by her that same month, so I was a little scared, but absolutely adore this. This is 33 pages. So if you're still trying to hit your reading goal, actually for 2021 or even next year, pick it up. It's a very quick read.
I'm already sold if it's 33 pages long, and I've already read from this author and really enjoyed her. I'm keen. This is great. I'm going to put this straight on my TBR. So if I do a vlog based on the books that I haven't read in this video, this book is going to be on that vlog.
The next book broke my heart. 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I think he has become, after this year, one of my favorite authors. I think he writes really great characters, and his stories break my heart. I tend to be a little careful with like contemporaries that tend to like play with your emotions. I feel like I easily feel manipulated, which it's definitely the goal with these kind of stories, to make you cry, you know, evoke some feelings in you. Yes. But I feel like when they're badly written, I just don't like it. But in this case, I didn't cry, but like misty eyes, you know?
If she didn't cry, that means I'm going to be absolutely bawling. If anyone doesn't know, I'm a booksook. I will cry at everything. I will get teary-eyed at everything. So I think this book is going to slay me. I don't know quite what genre it is, if it's historical contemporary or if it's just modern day contemporary. That'd be interesting to find out. I've only kind of seen this book on the periphery of things. I haven't actually looked into it. I don't know what it follows. I don't know who it involves. So the fact that it's going to be an emotional book, I'm just going to not read into it and then maybe try it out in the future and see how much I suffer. That's what I did with A Little Life. So maybe that'll work with this as well, just with less torture perhaps. Who knows?
The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. I think this is the only book here that might not be unanimously loved.
This one is another adult fantasy that I also have read because of all of the hype, and I, unlike Emily, didn't love this. I gave it 3 stars, which is not a bad rating to be honest, but it's just a rating that I wish was a 4 or 5, and it focused very much on a lot of the world building rather than what I wanted out of it, which is like the characters and this soldier and training kind of school scenario. So it had quote unquote a magical school, but it's not what I initially wanted from the book. So maybe that's my fault and my expectations, but also I didn't really gel with the writing style and I found it quite hard to immerse myself in. So I only gave it 3. To me, it wasn't worth the hype, but obviously to her it was. So that's a point of difference for us.
Last but definitely not least, I needed to rave about A Psalm for the Well-Built by Becky Chambers. She's one of my all-time favorite authors. She writes very character-driven sci-fi, but it's very accessible sci-fi. And you follow a main character who is a non-binary monk trying to figure out the meaning of their life, and it's very character-driven, tea discussions, and it's great. There's just something about her writing that makes me feel super comfortable, like makes me feel like home.
I can definitely relate. Becky Chambers' books always feel comfortable, mildly existential. They feel like home. They're cozy sci-fi basically. If you can pick her up, please do. I love her work. I gave this one about 3.5 stars. It was a bit too loose and character driven for me and I needed a little bit more stuff to stick into it, but ultimately I'm going to continue the series because I like the feelings it invoked and I like the questions it asked, so of course I'm going to continue. So thankfully the last one on her list I have actually read, but there are a few on this list that I'm really nervous about, like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and then there's another one, The Sword of Kaigen, which I'm super jazzed about. So if you've read any of these and you recommend that I start with one or the other, do let me know down below. Thank you again so much for watching this video. I'll come chat to you in the comments and I'll see you in my next video.